Right, let's talk about one thing that every Premier League team still needs in this transfer window. Should we start off with Aston Villa? Probably in need of a left-back at this point. Digne might be on his way out. Moreno's been injured. Moreno, by the way, fantastic addition.
He was great last season,
fantastic.
Wasn't he?
Underrated.
Real miss now. He picked up an injury. Obviously, Aston Villa losing that game against Newcastle, which has kind of put some doubters on the team that they've built. But I do think, a lot of knee-jerk reactions to the opening couple of weeks of the season. I think once they settle down, get their new signings bedded in, they'll be all right. But yeah, with Digne heading out, who I think has been a reliable fullback for Everton, out for Aston Villa, and the Moreno being out, you need some cover there. They let Ashley Young go as well, didn't they? He's gone to Everton.
Yeah.
So they need to bring someone in that position. We got any options for them? Anyone we can think of? One of the left backs still on the market. Been linked, we move away from Arsenal. Kieran Tierney could be a good.
That'd be amazing
for them.
Yeah.
But of course, he's got a lot of options on his table at this moment in time, it seems. But Aston Villa gets someone in that defensive position. They've lost Tyrone Mings to a heavy injury as well. Yeah. Maybe if you replace him, come get Harry Maguire, chuck 35 million at us.
I can't believe you're using the podcast to get rid of this guy.
Yeah, you're using the podcast that you don't own on your own as some sort of auction house to try and get rid of your dead wood.
What is it, Sotheby's or something?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
No, Harry Maguire does not get sold in Sotheby's. Sorry,
you can't.
He's one of them, those police auctions. He's in the police auction. Like, he's a proceed of crime, and we need to give him somewhere. That's what he is.
What's happening, everyone, and welcome to the club. Before we get into this clip, I need to let you know that this clip is brought to you by the wonderful people of Super 6. We need you to join our Super 6 League. Simply download the Super 6 app and join Club 23. It won't cost you a penny, and guess what? This week you could win £1 million. There is £1 million on offer. All you have to do is predict 6 scores correctly. If you do that, you will win £1 million and it won't cost you a penny. Simply click the link in the description below and we will see you in our mini league. Hope you enjoy the clip.
Burnley at this moment, obviously Vincent Kompany doing great things at Burnley. They need a replacement for Nathan Tella. They had a lot of players. They had a few of your boys on loan as well, didn't they?
One of their best players last season was Maatsen. He was in the Championship Team of the Year. He was brilliant for them. They tried to sign him, but obviously Chelsea didn't allow it because I think he's going to contribute massively to Chelsea this season. But that's the problem, isn't it? When you come up and you're part of the reason that you've come up is the loan players. This is applicable to Sheffield United as well. They lose the players that they had on loan and suddenly they're left a bit threadbare.
Nathan Tella scored last weekend as well for Southampton in a game that they won in the Championship. So kind of shows you he's going there now making an impact. Could have been at Burnley making an impact. The players that obviously they let go from City as well, not let go, they had no choice in the matter. Going to be a big miss for them. And you just think, get some quality in there, get some Premier League experience. And
they need something like
leaders as well, innit?
Yeah, goals.
Because they play football.
Goals. Talking of goals, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
The lack of them.
They lost Jimenez. They lost Diego Costa. They lost Martinho, Neves, who created.
And they didn't score any goals when they had all these players.
So Rory, who was useless.
Do you know why? Weirdly, I know it's not looking good for Wolves at all, and obviously losing Lopetegui is not ideal. And he did that weird thing. Did you see what Lopetegui did? They kind of sacked him, but in a gentlemanly way, they asked him to coach the team for like another couple of weeks to build up for the season. So he kind of stayed on as a coach, having been sacked.
They would have probably got like some mutual consent and stuff in there as well because they would want him to be stum.
Where I feel like Wolves are going to be okay is that through the manoeuvrings of their contacts, they can't sign anyone. They've got no money. But I just think that they will make full use of the loans market and therefore be okay.
Their midfield looked really good against United in the first game. I know we were quite poor, but you had like Lamina in there, you had João Gomez in there, and you had that Mateus Nunes, is it? No, to Mateus Nunes making runs from the midfield, which I think they look really good in. But then they play at home against Brighton, they get battered 4-1, and it's not looking good all of a sudden. Yeah,
it's a problem.
Defense, I think they need to keep the goals out and someone to put the goals in the back
they're
of
in
the
a world
net.
of pain.
And since Raul Jimenez's injury, actually, they haven't had a striker.
It's amazing how it can turn for them. Like, I thought they were going to win the Europa League fairly recently. Do you remember? They were actually going to win. They were in the quarterfinals.
They had that link with Hestifute as well, where they kept bringing the Portuguese players in.
link. George Mendes was involved. They had the Fosun money, and it seems to have all dried up. So how they proceed, I don't know.
Have happened at once
simultaneously. Yeah. But I do think that the connections of the club will be enough to do some clever manoeuvring to just bring in enough loan players to keep them in.
The kind of striker that is hard once he goes to Saudi, but if you're in the market for the Mitrovic, they're the big differences between the Fulham and the Wolves.
Absolutely.
Just having that goal scorer there to back them in.
Luton Town, how do you think they will?
So hard, isn't it? It's so tough.
3 words: Premier League experience. Like literally. Yeah. Like, I know Ross Barkley is that, but you'd be surprised if he played more than half the Premier League games.
It really reminds me of Blackpool when they got promoted and they just didn't have any pool. No one expects them to get promoted through the playoffs with Ian Holloway. I do think that Luton Town might just have to survive on this weird bounce that no one knows how to play against in Penzu in midfield. There's a physicality to it. Ross Barkley is probably as far as they can go in terms of
really want them to stay up. And if they can just get it right, if they can just get it right, like, that kind of throwback team. They're the crazy gang. 2 up front, 2 big men up front, skip the midfield. I'd love it to work. And, Luton, they conjure up good memories for me, just like the plastic pitch when I was a kid and all that. So I kind of hope that they do it. But Ross Barkley, I know you mentioned it, Ad, and you kind of tried to put a good spin on it in terms of like Premier League experience. But I'm sorry, this is a dreadful sign.
No, but I don't think he'll play many games.
No, I think
it's a dreadful
he's a bit of a diamond when they need it.
Funny that you say. Did you say that because of the? Why did you call him a diamond?
Just because in the sense that he's just a star player. He's a star player.
The reason I say
championship
that is that was what Everton used to sing about him. We've got a diamond called Ross Barkley, a scout.
But they signed championship. They've Chong from Birmingham City. I think former Man United talent and all that.
But Ross Barkley, Luton need him to be their Morgan Gibbs-White. Lead through that middle, drag the team forward and that.
No, he's not.
I don't think his heart isn't it anymore like that.
Unless the only reason it might be is because this is it, isn't it? This is it for Barkley. Like, if he has a good season, he could stay in the Premier League, get another year in the Premier League. If they go down and he's insignificant, he will never play in the Premier League again.
6 goals, 6 assists, enough to keep them in the league. A bit of a narrative.
If he does that, and obviously if they stay up and he's had a good season, he'll get another year in the Premier League.
100%.
If they go down, he will never play a Premier League game again, unless he is like the jewel in the crown.
So Luton, we agree, Premier League experience. Let's move on to Sheffield United. I think they're the worst in the Premier League in terms of what they need. They need everyone.
Gustavo Hammer, whatever his name is, a great signing, I think. He'll do well for them. Scored a very good goal for them the other day against Forest, but they need so much more quality in that team now. I mean, we did the overlap with the Sheffield United fan, and he was just devastated.
Yeah, he just sat there. It was quite interesting. He kind of just went, not good, not good.
Well, and Bramall Lane was really quiet when they lost to Palace, I think it was, and the atmosphere was really poor there. The trouble is, though,
it's the Mac. You know how I mentioned Ian Matson at Burnley. It's the same at Sheffield United. It's the same.
Well,
McAtee and Doyle.
And I'd be looking to get someone like Doyle back. I think James McAtee will be looking for a move slightly higher up, with all due respect. But I think someone like Tommy Doyle had a lot of plaudits in the Championship last season. So I think he's a massive one. They need loan players, Sheffield United. But I think they're building for a Championship season next season, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
They were surprised to go up. Yeah. They may be one of them teams. It might be Luton as well. Where they just go, we might go down. We don't really have to spend 100 million to stop ourselves going down. We know we're going down.
And come back again.
Yeah, so let's get the parachute payments and we'll be all right.
100%.
Yeah, what about Everton? They're in an interesting situation. Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Has anybody ever flattered to deceive more than Dominic Calvert-Lewin?
No, it's crazy, isn't it?
I've never known a player have that moment where we go, England's number 9, challenging Harry Kane for the bloody England spot, people were saying.
To be number 2, I think he was, Callum Wilson.
No?
And, challenging. They're linked to Gnonto from Leeds. Really, really interesting, exciting winger last season.
Gnonto's been handed in transfer requests and all sorts.
So I
can't remember the last person to hand in a transfer request to get to Everton.
Well, exactly, but he wants to play in the Premier League, and he's a very good winger in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? He'd be fantastic.
But they seem to just be buying all wingers at the moment. You need a striker.
Yeah.
You need some
Ashley
midfield.
Young, 58-year-old Ashley Young's going to, it's crazy. But if he has one good season, keeps Everton in the league, we're in a crazy narrative at the moment where Everton are fighting for their lives every season, and the signings they make, they're not about getting them back into Europe. It's about keeping them in the league the following season.
But they keep getting linked with strikers who don't score goals. Che Adams.
Yeah, I know.
Why? Neil Maupay. Why did you buy him?
Yeah, I know.
I'd score you more goals than Neil Maupay.
Yeah, you probably would actually, mate. Got a great
Everton are in trouble. They're in real trouble. And I think as much as we talk about them needing a goal scorer, what they need is like, as close to a guarantee. So rather than being ambitious and a little bit out there, just sign somebody who will do what you said about Barkley, 6 and 6. A striker that will do 10. I don't know who.
They're hard to come by, aren't they?
No, but 10 isn't. I'm not saying go and sign a 20. I'm saying just go and sign an 8 to 10 striker.
Yeah.
Because at the moment you just don't have that.
I don't think they've got the money either. I think it's hard.
And I think they keep putting these hopes in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Every season, this is the one where Dominic Calvert-Lewin stays fit. It's like me with Tony Marshall. It's not
happening, bro. I could have told you that, mate.
Probably not going to happen.
Should we move on to Bournemouth? They have actually made some really interesting additions. Alex Scott from Bristol City, very, very exciting. Max Aarons as well, of course, and Tyler Adams. I think it's impressive.
Incredible business.
Yeah, for Bournemouth. I think maybe a centre-half, I think with a bit more experience would be really, really good for them. I don't think they need much else. Look out for Alex Scott. He'll be an unbelievable talent in the future. He'll be playing for
Great
England.
signing on Football Manager. Incredible. He's from Bristol City, isn't he?
Yeah, 2-footed. Played well against Man City last season in the Cup. So
I wouldn't be
watch
surprised
out.
if Bournemouth received 80 million for him in life.
He's an £80 million England international in 3 years. He's unbelievable. Generational talent.
Yeah, so Bournemouth made some impressive signings.
Yeah.
Tyler Adams, Max Aarons. I think Max Aarons is one you keep expecting him to be in the Premier League, or should have left Norwich ages ago, and they finally leaves. They get like pennies for him.
Yeah.
They could have got
He was
like
going for
30, 40 million for him not long ago.
Crazy.
Mental.
That's a really good.
So I think there's some really good signings. Their manager, question marks there. Obviously conceded a fair few goals at Anfield. You'd hope, you need to.
It's always
But it's half as good as it was last. It was 9-0 last time.
Yeah,
so they're doing all right.
Yeah, they're doing better. Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was this. They played each other in the same weekend.
Wow. Scott Parker ran and lost his job.
Yeah.
West Ham now. How long are they going to rely on Mikel Antonio? And by the way, where's Mikel Antonio get the balls to have a go at Richarlison from? Richarlison's twice the player you've ever been, bro.
We're all in the same industry. All footballers are in the same industry. We're in a certain industry. We've got colleagues. We never slag off our colleagues.
We slag them off all the time.
I don't.
Not on camera.
But Antonio did that. I thought it was really poor. And look, this is a guy that used to be a right back in the Championship with Nottingham Forest. So I don't know why he's slagging off Richarlison who's scoring World Cup goals.
I haven't seen it.
Poor.
Can you feel? Well, I have, but can you just fill somebody in who may be listening that doesn't know about it?
He was just laughing at him ranting and raving about being subbed or something like that on his podcast with.
So I think what happened was last season they kind of had a little bit of a go at Richarlison, saying that he
on what and on Antonio
on their podcast.
Antonio has his own podcast.
Callum Wilson and Antonio, right? And then obviously Richarlison, I think, has reacted to this when he's met him or something, and Mikel Antonio was given the big one on his thing. It's like, bruv, shut up. He's playing for Tottenham and you're not.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, the player who I know West Ham need to sign, I've got the answer to their problems. And it would, if it were to happen, it would keep Mikel Antonio out of the team, I think. They need to sign Romelu Lukaku.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, yeah.
That's who they need to sign.
He could be the perfect man
he's
for Moyes.
He's perfect. Because he scores, got to think about his form at West Brom and Everton. He scores goals at that level. He can miss chances at that level and it not really matter. He's not...
No one's getting on
proper West Ham striker. He's 100% bang on.
He's a West Ham striker.
You've got no pressure on him. No pressure.
That's a shout,
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Lukaku loan.
Sign him. Have him for free. Just take him. Just take him in his wages. Yeah.
But they can afford it.
But I don't think his ego would allow him to go to West Ham.
I think there's got to be a readjustment. He's just seen 20,000 Juve fans storm the pitch begging for him not to re-sign at the club.
Little connection would be good as well. They still need a centre back, don't they? Because they wanted Harry Maguire.
I can't believe he turned that down.
I don't think they necessarily need it because if you think Zuma, Agerd is good enough.
Care's good as well.
Pardon?
Care's good.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've signed that Mavropanos, that used to play for Arsenal. That one's just gone through. So maybe they're not in the market for a centre back at the moment, but you feel like maybe they need something there. Obviously,
I just think it's Lukaku. I think if they have any intentions of staying in the league, guaranteeing their position in the league, obviously they have intentions of staying in the league. If they just want to secure their Premier League status, Romelu Lukaku does that because Romelu Lukaku easily scores 12 for them.
Yeah.
And that's enough to stay up.
He strikes me as the kind of guy who'd rather sit on the bench at
Stamford Bridge
or whatever it is. Yeah. Or Chelsea, yeah.
Well, also, West Ham, he'd have to halve his wages unless Chelsea would pay him off.
Could happen.
I think Chelsea would pay him off.
Which would be
happy to do that.
On principle, we should make him train with the youth.
Talking of Chelsea, what's a sort of position you need? I still think there's a lot of gaps in that squad.
I think we have an issue because where we need to replenish our squad is where we have been unfortunate with an injury. Like Christopher and if Nkunku was there, Nkunku and Nicholas Jackson, I think we have enough. I think we have enough firepower in and around. You took them bringing Sterling to the equation, you bring in Chukwuemeka to the equation, Mudryk to the equation. Suddenly we're looking good. Nkunku out is so huge. So I'm slightly worried about the link up with Jackson. I'm slightly worried about who's going to feed Nicholas Jackson. So that's a slight concern. But then the other gaping hole in the squad, Kepa Arrizabalaga, unbelievably, has gone to Real Madrid. And if he didn't go to Real Madrid, he was going to Bayern Munich. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
He's got the best agent in the world. I need to get this guy's agent. It's
absolutely unreal. So we now, obviously Mendy went earlier in the year to Saudi. So obviously we signed Sanchez, but that's it. So
what about David De Gea? He's on the market.
De Gea.
Would you take it?
No.
Why? A bit of experience.
He's better than Kepa.
He's better than Kepa.
But I don't think De Gea comes to
Premier
sit on
League
Chelsea's
golden
bench.
clean sheet.
Fresh start as well.
Who's a better keeper, De Gea or Sanchez?
Sanchez.
Sanchez is ropey, though.
Why am I being stupid, man? De Gea?
Don't bring in De Gea. Please don't bring in De Gea for Chelsea.
Well, anyway, I'm going to say a goalie, good one. Buffon of a decade ago.
Buffon at Parma.
Yeah, Buffon at Parma.
Oh, yeah. Class that. Be proper good. Do you know when that was?
Yeah, it was probably 20 years ago.
Mental, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, well, it was Lilian Thuram, whose son's scoring goals now.
Nedved and all that.
Yeah.
Buvey probably wasn't born when
I was just about.
Buffon made his debut.
Probably not debut. Who cares?
Yeah, Tottenham. What do they need? They need a striker, that's for sure. Harry Kane's left. Big gaping hole.
I don't know
up
if they
front.
do, because the way they play now, do they need a striker?
When I was praising their front four the other day, you were saying they need a striker.
No,
I mean more
for their system. It's not. I'm not saying. I don't think the players that they have in that are good enough, but I don't think they are lacking the player. I just don't think the player that they have is good. But they seem to think the player that they have is good. Like, I think Richarlison's pony. I think
he's shocking.
Do you think he's? I think he's like woeful.
He's shocking.
I think he's Watford level.
He might be a good squad player to play in the League Cup, FA Cup
I just don't
games.
think he's that. I don't think. I
if
just don't
Spurs
get
are
it.
chasing a top 5 finish, then I think they'll need an
he's
Ivan
a top
Toney.
10 player.
Why can't they gamble on Ivan Toney? I think look, they beat Man United this weekend. Richarlison had some sort of effect. Do you know what I mean? He had some sort of role. Didn't score. But Maddison, if he can link up with Richarlison a little bit, it might feed Maddison's form. I just honestly do not see it with him. I think, look, Toney, I get. I think I'd like Chelsea to sign Toney. Like, I really do. I think he's a brilliant player. Yeah.
Brilliant player, and I'm not bothered about this band that he's currently on. I don't think that's an issue.
I do think they need to, you got them, your Ramoses of the world, your Vlahovic's, all these strikers that get linked with a move every summer. One of these big boys needs to go in. And I think Spurs need to get in there before everyone else does.
Yeah.
Because how do you know what in a year, 2 years' time, when Richarlison, they've decided he's not going to be the guy. I don't know. Let's say Haaland's left City, so they're in the market for a striker. Then you got United are in the market for a striker.
Yeah,
it's going to become a different.
I think Spurs need to wait for the right opportunity. There's no striker out that they can get, and they should be going for
the
Ferguson.
Striker everyone needs to get is that man there.
But Man United might need to do it, but they've already got Højlund. So
United should have got Ferguson this.
You can't keep spending money, mate.
No, we should have gotten this summer.
Spent enough.
That's when we should have got.
Let's move on to Fulham. Losing Mitrovic to Al Hilal. That side is crazy.
Breaking news from Elliot.
What's that?
The reason we're laughing about that is because we did a show on Saturday and we were having a proper good conversation.
Yeah,
it was
we were in
myself,
deep debate,
Buvey, Rory,
Yeah.
Miles, having a conversation. And Elliot interrupted with breaking news.
Someone's been sacked. Premier League manager Moyes has been sacked.
Yeah, United have signed someone, or I don't know. Yeah, it's Elliot to tell us Mitrovic has gone Al Hilal.
I think they're in a world of pain without him. I think the first 3 months of his form in the Premier League, coming off an incredible season in the Championship, it buoyed them up a little bit, kept them afloat.
He had like 15 goals by Christmas.
The only good thing about him leaving, and I'm really finding the silver lining here, but do you know the worst thing isn't him leaving. The worst thing is him not leaving and having the hump. Mitrovic in your squad with the hump is a bad combination.
Yeah, they've got good money for him, and
he's not
hopefully
that kind of. He's not that kind of player. Like, he's not the kind of player that will just like go, "Oh, I wanted the move." Like, the way Kane wanted the move, didn't get it, scored 30 goals. That's not Mitrovic.
Yeah, it could have caused.
I don't think that's anybody when you realise, oh my God, I'm missing out on 500 grand every
Kane
week.
missed out on a treble, mate, and he's still scored 30 goals.
When you probably get earning at Fulham 100 grand a week, reckon he's on top.
Yeah. No, losing Mitrovic is bad, but losing him in the context. The only problem is, if you're Marco Silva now, and I think there was a time when Marco Silva was being sought by Saudi. If you're Marco Silva, do you kind of go, I'm not being backed properly at Fulham. The ownership at Fulham is dodged. They're losing players. They're talking about
because he was offered a move to Saudi.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Does he now go? Okay, I'll go.
But I think he's smart enough that if anything happens in the Premier League this season from one of the bigger clubs, one of the big clubs sacked their guy, it could happen. A lot of sackings last season. He'll be one of the first to go.
I also think he was someone. When he left Hull, he went Everton. And he kind of had that chance and then disappeared and he had to go away and work hard to get back to this.
Nottingham Forest. Obviously, Loddy was on loan last season. Was all right. There's a couple of loan players that didn't really do much for Nottingham Forest last season. It's a hard one. Are they a good side? Are they in a relegation battle?
Yeah, they're in a relegation battle.
You think?
I think they've got a good enough manager to keep them out of it, and I think that the club will survive. I think they've got enough about them. You look at the performance against Arsenal at the end of last season to keep them up. I think there's enough there. But yeah, Forest could go down. I mean, nobody would have them higher than what, 15th, 16th, 15th, 14th, maybe.
The business last season with...
I do think last season, though, if they were ever going to go down, it was then. And I think this season, look, they could still go down. It still might be in a relegation battle. But Awoniyi looks a lot better as a player. He looks more settled in the Premier League.
Morgan Gibbs-White.
He'll score goals. Morgan Gibbs-White. Brennan Johnson, they've held on to him so far. There was links with him moving. You keep on to hold on to those players. They've got goals in their team. They've got leadership. There's no reason why they can't sustain, just even if it's 15th, but just sustain your Premier League position. And they're the kind of team I look at, and I want them to. I want them to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, the Premier League needs them.
More valuable with Forest in it. But yeah, where are we saying left back for them?
Probably left back.
Yeah. Man United?
God, where'd you start?
Wow. I think you need a whole second team, mate. You haven't spent enough money, in my opinion. 1.5 billion in the last 6 years. Let's spend another 1.5 billion.
It's the hole in the middle, isn't it? Like, just the midfield. Mason Mount hasn't plugged it. Casemiro's not quite at the level that we expected. Scott McTominay is not the answer, despite Gary Neville's thoughts on this. I don't really know with Man City.
We need a midfielder. Apparently we've had terms agreed with Amrabat for a while, but because we've been unable to get rid of a Donny or a Maguire, we haven't had the funds there because of FFP to then go and sign Amrabat. So hopefully that will develop later in the window. And I do think it is, like you mentioned, bringing in Mason Mount, who's more of an attacking, like part of that attacking kind of midfielder unit who can come back and cover as well. We do need someone to either sit next to Casemiro or replace Casemiro when he's not ready. I'm not worried about, I seen Jamie Carragher talking about Casemiro's legs are gone and he's finished. I just think he's not up to speed yet and he hasn't had the best of pre-seasons, and I think that will come. We were also seen it at the start of last season. He looked like one of them, like a Rooney that needs a few weeks to get going. So I think if we can get that midfielder, like an Amrabat type midfielder, to sit alongside, that's what I think Kobbie Mainoo was going to do. And I genuinely believe Ten Hag was ready to play Kobbie on a regular basis in the first team because he looks like the academy player that we have that is ready for that. So yeah, a midfielder for sure. Obviously, I would like to say a striker, but we've just bought one for 70 million. Yeah. So once he's in the team, he should be okay in terms of that up-front position. But we definitely currently need a midfielder. And if Maguire goes, we need to replace him with a centre-back.
What about Crystal Palace? This Elise saga just won't end for them.
Well, Elise's signed the deal, right?
It has ended, isn't it?
No, well, he signed the deal and he's not moving to Chelsea now. But I don't think that ends the conversation of where Michael Elise ends up.
Well, Palace are always going to be eternally in that situation.
He's 21 years old. He could stay there for 3-4 years, earn what, 300 grand a week, which what he's doing now.
You don't think that Michael Elise is playing for Palace in 3 years' time?
He's not earning 300 grand a week, is he?
He's our biggest earner now because he's signed a new deal.
Surely he's on 300 grand a week at
surely
Palace.
he's replaced Zaha, who was on like 150 or something.
Maybe it's 250 or something. I thought he's on a massive... All right, maybe I'm wrong. I thought he's on a massive 300 grand a week.
I don't think anyone at Palace being or anything like that.
No.
But also, I'd say that this is an ongoing saga. Yeah, he signed the deal, but I think he signed the deal out of loyalty to Palace in order to make sure that when he does leave, the transfer fee.
I also think he's sensible enough to know that this might be the right place for me right now, playing week in, week out as one of the key players. He also looks like a player, like, when he scores and you don't celebrate, he's just like, I'm here to score goals. He seems very clear cut about things. So I feel like he's the kind of player that will go, yeah, that move would be great for me, but I can play week in, week out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I may as well stay. And he's seemed quite ruthless.
How do you think
about
Palace cope with, this is a Zaha-less Palace?
They're in the best position they've been in over the last 10 years to be without him, if you get my
Because they've
point.
got Elise
and Elise.
yeah.
And Hodgson there is massive. Experience. He's going to keep it tight at the back. No weird kind of new
Do
philosophies
you not
coming
think it would have been a more progressive, clever moment? Sometimes not waiting for it to go wrong before you sack someone. Like you get heat saying this.
You said that about Moyes, isn't it? And I agree with you.
I've said it about Moyes. I've said it about Howe. I've said it about certain managers. You don't need to be in the relegation zone to sack your manager. You can be progressive and get ahead of it. Do you not think that Palace, off the back of Hodgson keeping them up, should have?
But that's literally the scenario with Vieira. And Vieira's got good credentials. He's a good, got good experience in the game. And he nearly got them relegated. They were shocking. Hodgson comes back. I think Palace are the sort of club Steve Parish will operate season by season. What's the best for the club to keep us in the Premier League, keep us profitable, keep us going. Financially from where Palace used to be, a few decades ago, they're doing incredibly well. So I don't think they replace Zaha with a big player. I think they've got Ayew kicking about and Edouard down the middle. I think they'll do enough just to stay in the league every season.
I think they'll be all right this season, but they do need to bring in someone to replace Zaha for sure, and get someone on that left wing. And then you've got some balance. You've got Elise on one side, Eze through the middle, and they've never really had a prolific striker. Maybe it's the time to get one of those. Arsenal, Jurian Timber's picked up a huge injury.
But that's that in itself is okay, isn't it? Because he was the addition. So what they needed was more cover at the back, and they brought that in, and that was it.
But it did feel like that was in preparation for maybe one of their fullbacks going as well, because he can kind of play on.
I think Kieran Tierney probably needs to stay now if you're an Arsenal fan.
Yeah,
I think you'd be looking at it thinking, okay, now one's out, we need cover. Basically, the issue was you could argue that they didn't win the league because of the Saliba injury. Saliba got injured; they had to play Rob Holding. They need to have a situation where Rob Holding doesn't feature. They have that situation still. Yeah, that's one option. Or just don't play him, whatever, play a kid. But they still have that situation because they've still got a situation where they can play Ben White centrally.
Yeah.
Remember, they've got that Jacob Kiwior there as well. And they still have Kieran Tierney. So I think they can make it work. The problem isn't the Timber injury. The problem is the Timber injury plus another injury. Then it's threadbare.
But they are still basically in the same position.
They're in the same position without, which is fine because Timber will come back from injury at some point.
But you're looking at 75% of his season could be done.
You can't sign.
It's not going to be the same.
You can't sign a player
to replace him,
to replace an injured player, because what happens is you sign a new player for 3 years on a 160 grand a week contract.
Yeah,
Timber then comes back. And somebody on a huge contract is off the pitch.
I get what you're saying.
So you can't sign a player. You could maybe do a loan signing. You could maybe bring someone through the youth academy. But I think with Kiwior there, if Arsenal fans trust him, and they certainly seem to trust him last year.
I like him. I really like him.
Yeah.
I think Tomiyasu is a big one because obviously Ben White can move centrally. Tomiyasu can come in
centrally, or Tomiyasu, exactly.
He was injured at the back end of last season, so I think they'll be okay.
I don't think they have to sign somebody there.
I think they need. Do you know what they need? A big, powerful striker.
Do they need Vlahovic?
Yeah, and maybe that's not the right time for Arsenal financially because that's going to be 80, 90 million euros or whatever it is. It's probably not the right time. But I don't think Jesus leads them to winning Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues.
I agree with you. What about Man City, Booth? Like, you're in a weird situation now because your arguably best player is out for 4 months. He's at an age and a position in his career where a 4-month injury, I hope this isn't the case, but I don't even know if he'll ever get back to the level that we've known him because this is...
And it's big injury after big injury.
Big injury after big injury. And
after winning the treble.
And he's 30.
After winning the treble, so he might just be like, is there any point even me getting fit anymore?
So, do Man City need to sign anyone else in any obvious position?
I think the obvious position isn't actually in midfield because I think Bernardo Silva is going to sign a contract, Phil Foden, even someone like James McAtee coming back on loan. I think it's Doku. as a winger to replace Riyad Mahrez. He's someone that can play a little bit more on the outside. He's got raw pace. The City side lacks a bit of pace. We've got a load of centre-backs, got a load of powerful midfielders, but we need raw pace. So I think the City side will be a little bit different if we could get a Doku in. So I think Doku's the big one for me. And leave the midfielders. Let Phil Foden play, lads. I think it's relatively simple. Should we move on to Newcastle? Lascelles has got a bit of an injury. Maybe a centre-back needed for them, do you think? A bit more protective cover?
They do seem to have like that bit of, I think Tonali was an excellent addition for them because like Rory pointed out when we did the watch along on Saturday, when you keep Bruno quiet or Bruno doesn't play, Newcastle are generally defeated. So to bring Tonali in, I think was a great addition. They seem to have that balance in midfield now. They have a lot of attackers, don't they? Isaac, Wilson. You've got your wingers there, Harvey. So
they've already made their sign. Newcastle have made one of the best signings that they could make, and they signed Lewis Hall from us. Such a good signing for them. It really is. He will shine. He is exactly what they need. Right? All left side of midfield. He's very good going forward. I wouldn't be surprised to see him tried in a more advanced position. But yeah, he can certainly play fullback. It's a brilliant acquisition for them.
Really what we feeling, they need a centre back just in case of any injuries.
They don't want a situation where Jamal Lascelles has to be anywhere near the first team, and they're currently a Rizla paper away from that. But I think that's football. You can't. You know what we were just saying about Arsenal? You can't sign a player just because of a potential eventuality. Jamal Lascelles may have to play a game of football. If Jamal Lascelles is that player, he either shouldn't be there or you got to play him occasionally.
That's true, yeah. And that's what the League Cup's for. Let's be completely real.
Yeah.
Liverpool, I think they're chronically short. I think Jurgen Klopp's been completely let down.
They can't sign anyone. They've signed they've signed their players.
Yeah,
they've got Endo in. They've what can they sign?
We talk about downgrades, by the way. Man City with Kovacic, is that a downgrade? Mate,
not today.
Henderson's a major player for Liverpool, and Endo he's got no Premier League experience. He's 30 years old. Him plus Lavia is fantastic business. Him plus Caicedo. If it's just Endo, they're in a world of pain.
Think if Liverpool signed Lavia, we're currently sitting here going, Liverpool might win the league this year.
Yeah, Caicedo, you're saying one of the better chances of winning the league aside from the obvious two. You go. In fact, with Caicedo, they're suddenly the third.
And it does feel like Endo's more of a squad signing. I still say they need that central defensive midfielder.
I just don't know with Liverpool anymore. Do you know, generally, opinion having one isn't something I struggle with.
Yeah,
I don't know part of me thinks they're going to be so good at scoring goals that they're going to be fine. And part of me thinks, I just don't know if they're going to qualify for Europe at all.
I wouldn't be surprised if they get Amrabat. Like with United.
Would that be one over on you? Would that be bad news?
It wouldn't be one over because at the moment we can't do it. But the fact is he's been waiting for United. He's waited this whole time for us. And then if he goes there, it's because we haven't been able to stump up the money. It's that simple. And so, in that case, they would have if he does go there. Been linked with Gravenberch as well on loan, which I think could be a good move for a Premier League club on loan, bringing in Ryan Gravenberch. Obviously, he left Holland, went to Germany, hasn't really pulled up trees there, but there's still a player in there, I think, and he would be a good signing for anyone, especially on loan. Brentford then obviously short of Ivan Toney's goals at this moment in time, done all right, but we're saying they need some goals. But then it's like Rory's been saying this whole time, you're kind of covering for a player that you know is going to be available.
You can't sign.
You're going to cause issues.
You can't sign a player to replace Toney for this period.
But what if he comes back and someone's interested in January and they need a striker?
I think, Brentford waiting. You get some loyalty there, even if it's to the end of the season.
Ericsson didn't show any loyalty.
No, even if it's to the end of the season. No, but Toney won't leave in January.
I think there'll be a conversation with
Crazy
Toney.
Things have happened,
There'll be a conversation with Toney where they will have said, if you're going to leave, you leave now, and if you're not going to leave, that's cool, but we need you to the end of the season.
Is there a contract saying that?
But these conversations must, Brentford are a well-run club, and therefore you can assume that conversation has taken place. Ivan Toney is the jewel in that crown. So I think they will wait for him, and I think that he will play for them to the end of the season, which means that they can't really replace him now.
Yeah.
You can't replace a player who's coming back in 6 months.
I think Brentford are absolutely fine. They've got a lot of balance. I think the big factor will be Thomas Frank, a bit like how we talked about Silva at Fulham. If Thomas Frank were to get poached by a big side in Europe who need a manager, he'd be another one on my list. De Zerbi, Frank and Silva. the outer kind of remit of managers that haven't got a big club at the moment.
For a second there, I thought he was talking about Lampard.
Yeah, I was going to say,
really?
that's Rory's list. That
Yeah,
Zerbi, Frank.
Yeah,
Lampard.
I thought, gosh, he's this non-conformist is finally in the club.
He's always been in the club. Subscribe to the club as well. So Brentford, we're saying obviously they need a striker, but you got Ivan Toney coming back.
I don't think they can sign a striker at the moment, Brentford.
Midfielder?
It'd be wild.
Midfield would be nice for them, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
As well. Brighton now. You know what? I don't even think we need to suggest anything for Brighton because Brighton have got the best recruitment going.
They
don't need anyone's help, especially
Caicedo's
£3 on it.
They'll have Caicedo's replacement in. He'll cost £3.5 million. They'll sell him in 18 months to Man City for 160.
No, don't say
How
Man
much
City.
they're going to get for each?
You're signing the next one.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of money they're going to get for Evan Ferguson is going to be mental.
150 mil.
Have you seen the Bohemians thing?
Yeah, they get...
The Bohemians get they've got a sell-on clause, and Bohemian it's the equivalent in terms of prize money that they've won the league every year for 130 years.
So let's say he goes for 100 million, they're going to get like 20 or something, 20%,
something heavy,
like that.
something heavy, yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Amazing.
Evan Ferguson, please come to Man United.
Do you rate? You want him, yeah?
Yeah, especially because he's Irish as well. You know, him being Irish kind of makes me think, oh,
There's a link. There's a history.